What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. We got Caleb, we got Quentin, and we got the man, the myth, the legend, NFL Network's Adam Rank.
What is happening? Oh my God. Thanks so much. First of all, thank you so much for accommodating me. I put in like 30 requests like I had a writer. Like I'm the Foo Fighters. So I appreciate you making the time and everything. I really appreciate
being here.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I got to ask you a really quick question.
All right.
What the hell was your ranking last year with the Chiefs and the AFC West? I just want to know. I'm sure the fans want to know.
10 wins. Like I said, you guys were going to win double-digit games. I feel like that's pretty good.
But you had us losing to the Broncos. You had us losing to the Chargers. You had us losing to all these teams that just got their butts kicked by us.
Yeah, mistakes were made. No doubt about that. You know what? I think part of it was I tried to not be like the typical fantasy guy who I was saying to myself, like, Patrick Mahomes has played pretty well without Tyreek Hill. Look at the numbers. Like, it's right there. Like, he's fine. And then some NFL guy got into my ear. And he's like, no, you got to watch this tape of this game. You know the one, the divisional playoff win over the Buffalo Bills. He takes over that game. And I'm like, yeah, there's something to be said about that. So I'm like, okay. So I softened it. So I went and I'm like, maybe they'll win about 10 games like that. Clearly, as great as Tyreek Hill is, and he's fantastic, you really can win with Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco, Kadarius Toney. So I think Patrick Mahomes, I kind of underestimated just how fantastic he was.
Can you actually admit he is absolutely the best quarterback that's played the game?
I'm not there yet. I will say this. We've had this discussion. We've talked about this on Total Access. If you had me choose between Patrick Mahomes and Peyton Manning in his prime, I would take Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. Wow.
I'll take it.
100%.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Who would take Peyton? Who's the person who would take Peyton? Because I don't know who that person is outside of Archie. And even Archie might be smart enough to know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
He's done it though. Like he's gone out and he's won the games. He's won big games like that. He's taken it over. And you can even say this when you compare him to Tom Brady. The first couple of years of Tom Brady was really Bill Belichick's defense carrying him.
Yeah.
Not carrying him. I mean, Tom Brady made the plays. He made the final drive against the St. Louis team. But ultimately, like that was a very good all-around football team. And not to take anything away from the Chiefs as an organization. But Patrick has been directly involved in winning all of these games. The first Super Bowl was practically all him. So I think I'm very comfortable saying, like, yeah, he's at least the second best quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
Who do you think's
first? For a guy that's been in the league, been a starter for 5 years, for you to already bump him to number 2, I don't know about you guys. I can live with that.
Well, you got to give him the time. I mean, you probably got Brady as number 1. Am I correct?
I would say Brady number 1 at this.
Okay. That's fair.
Now let me ask you a really quick question.
Is it though? Is it? I don't know.
It's just a quick question. You said for the first couple of years the Belichick defense carried him.
Yeah.
Now we know that Brady had top 5, top 10 defenses for 17 of the 20 years he spent with Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 years that he lost the Super Bowl, they weren't top 5, top 10. They were up there in the 15 to 20 range. Their average defenses.
Yeah.
So when you look at a Patrick Mahomes that played, won a Super Bowl with the 27th ranked defense overall, and then came back and went to another Super Bowl with, I think they were 22nd ranked overall. This year was the best defense he's ever had at 11th overall, and they were all rookies.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, with the exception of some of the defensive line, but I mean, your entire secondary was rookies, other than Justin Reed. So, I don't know.
I agree with that, but at the same time, Tom Brady had done it over 2 decades. There was never like a definitive, like, well, it's over for him. Like he did it with different casts of characters, and obviously Patrick's doing the same thing. Again, going back to the pass catchers that he had in addition to Travis Kelce last year, but like there is something to be said about he's done it for a long, like Tom Brady's done it for a long time. And even right now, like if somebody would have said prime Tom Brady, prime Patrick Mahomes. If somebody takes Patrick Mahomes, I'm not giving a big enough of like, oh, okay, like that's fine. It's like the people who like Lou Malnati's as opposed to Geno Ziste. Like, okay, like if you like Geno Ziste better, that's fine. I will go there. I enjoy it, but I prefer this one. Come talk to me in a couple of years. My mind might change, but I think we're already starting to see the right things in place where Patrick Mahomes right now is currently what, the 7th highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Mhm.
That's probably not going to change. It's going to get worse. He's going to be the 10th highest paid. He's going to be the 15th highest paid.
Yes.
Daniel Jones next year is going to end up making more money than Patrick Mahomes. But he's also good with that. He's also come out and said the right things. Like I think that he's kind of like, look, like I'm making enough money. I want to be competitive each and every season. I want to go out there and do everything. And then and what you're saying about Tom Brady is not incorrect. Like it's really not. But had Patrick Mahomes been drafted by the Houston Texans,
Oh God. Well,
Yeah.
does he win 3 Super Bowls? I don't know. Or go to
Yeah.
3 Super Bowls, I should say. So I will give the benefit of the doubt, like coaching is part of it, but it's an exceptional talent, and he's made the most of it. He's made the most of his opportunity. I don't think that you should penalize him. But when everybody comes back and says, well, Brady, because of Belichick, I'm like, I that's fair. But Andy Reid is also a huge advantage over, I can't even remember who Houston's coach was. Was it Bill O'Brien?
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bill
really?
O'Brien, yeah.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
He was terrible. Sorry. I mean, he was not good.
He was a better coach than I think we give him credit for, just because he messed up the GM side of it so much.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
think-
destroyed the GM side of it.
Yeah,
Played
I
all
think
those
that was
picks.
part of the problem. Is like if you look at his offenses, they were creative, and I mean, obviously there wasn't a defense really there, and there really wasn't that many offensive weapons other than between Deshaun Watson and when you had D-Hop there. Other than that, though, what they were able to put together on that offense, Bill O'Brien, and that's why I think the Patriots are going to be a team that will look much better this year, because having a real offensive coordinator for a quarterback is kind of important.
A little bit. A
Little,
little bit.
Mhm.
So
I have
go ahead. Ask
bring
your
it back
question.
to
I
the
knew you
Chiefs.
had it.
If you notice, I have two nicknames. Neither one was I gave myself, both of which were given to me. The first one is a new addition that was recently given to me by JP. The reason I was given the quote "Q the Doubter" nickname is because I came on here and I said that the Chiefs should not expect to get anything out of Justin and John Ross, and that we as Chiefs fans should be excited if we got a combined 300 yards from the two of them this season. As a fantasy guy, how do you view that? Do you think either one of those guys will be viable, moving into the season?
You know what? I feel like it's the Mecole Hardman syndrome of like, hey, this is a talented guy on a great offense with a great quarterback. Something's got to be there, right? And you always get super excited, and then nothing happens. I mean, Sky Moore last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like they've gone out there and found ways to be productive. And Juju was actually pretty good, but there's not a lot. I don't know. Like I think that you're good with Mahomes. You're good with Kelsey. You want to take a flyer on Kadarius Toney. I know a lot of people will because of the talent. And who else we got there? McKinnon, of course, and Pacheco.
Mhm.
Those guys are fine, but I think we're digging too deep. I think you're about right. I think that your doubter label is justified in this instance.
There we go, ladies and
Well,
gentlemen.
we're not going to hear the end of this, but that's okay.
Oh, God. Thank you a lot, Adam. We'll talk about this later. You just caused us a lot of crap on our show for the next
That's
few
a point,
weeks.
though. And I played fantasy football for many years now, as long as you guys have played. But what I've noticed is that you can pick, if you pick a Chiefs player, the only two you can pick that's going to be consistent, it's going to be Kelsey or Mahomes. Everyone else, they may have a game here, they may have a game there. If you have basically a situation where Clyde Edwards is doing great kind of the beginning of the season last year, trade him away after the first couple weeks, because there's a good chance that success is not going to be stagnant. It's going to drop. So that is a good point, because, I mean, as much as I want to see Justin and John Ross, the Chiefs got a lot of weapons, and not everyone can get the ball. So it's going to be very interesting, but I appreciate the clarification on that. Thank you, Adam.
No, it's fair. I mean, like Byron Pringle was another guy that was always like, oh, should I pick him up? Like he would have that 1 week where he goes crazy. Sammy Watkins for the first week of the season. Amazing.
Yep.
That was every year, though. That was every year with Sammy.
That was every year. I remember I was in a league and there's a sweet lady named Mama Dina, and she's a delight. I met her through the NFL Twitter handle, and I go, hey, by the way, I go, trade Sammy. After the first week, I'm like, trade Sammy Watkins. She's like, no way. Why would I do this? I'm like, just trust me. It didn't work out for her.
Yeah.
I do
Sammy
have
was
a-
just injury prone. I mean, terrible.
I do kind of have a question for you, real quick. If you were doing just a dynasty fantasy football mode style, what position would you say is the most important and why? I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that.
It really depends on your setup. Like I have a 2 quarterback. I'm in a league with Field Yates, Mike Golick Jr., JJ Zacharyson, Josh Norris, some of the field, Kyle Yates. So some like real good fantasy people. And it's a super flex league. And I made an error because I got Justin Herbert right out of the gate. I'm like, yeah, I'm set. And this was the year that Kyle Pitts was a rookie. So I took Kyle Pitts and I'm like, this will be good because I'll have like a version of Travis Kelce throughout the entirety of his career. It hasn't come to fruition yet, but I ignored the quarterback, and it's been bad because I took Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good one.
Zach Wilson and Tom Brady, neither of which are playing anymore. So now it's a 2 quarterback league. I think my next top quarterback is like Hendon Hooker. So I'm in a real bad way. So if you're playing super flex leagues, make sure you get the quarterbacks because they're the longest, they're the most sustainable. And even in your traditional, even if it's a 1 quarterback dynasty league, you forget how valuable a quarterback is. I think everybody who plays season long is now jaded. And I would implore anybody who plays fantasy football, even if you do a season long redraft league, do a 2 quarterback league. So you have to have at least 1 good quarterback because it's maddening. The guys who win streaming Jared Goff and all that. I mean, there's a skill to it and there is something to be said about it. Although last year in one of my second city league, I took Patrick Mahomes really early because
I did that last year.
well, you also have to know the scoring because I play in a league where quarterback scoring, it was heavily weighted. You got bonuses for yardage, you got bonuses for touchdowns. And I was saying that, with so many young people on defense, what was it? 7 rookies who started. Yeah. I said a team that I think could be in a lot of shootouts. I go, even if I think they win just 10 games, they're still a good team and they're going to be in every game that they play. I want Patrick Mahomes, and I'm hoping that he has to throw the ball 35 times a game, which was pretty close. Even though they were winning a lot of games, he carried me. Like it was so amazing having him. So I felt bad that the Chiefs fans were always so mad at me. And I'm like, well, Patrick Mahomes is carrying me to my fantasy league championship, but okay. Like everybody be mad. It's all good.
Hey, I got to tell you something. It's so comical because so many Chiefs fans, when we announced that you were coming on the show, you're right. They were mad. I mean, it was like, they're still mad. They're still mad about the 10-7 pick. I mean, they're still pissed off about that. And I mean, it's like, everybody has their picks and everybody has their, who's your favorite team? Who do you root for in general? I mean, who's your NFL team?
Is this a joke?
No, I can't see behind you. I can't see anything.
There's a lot of Bears paraphernalia behind me.
I can't see it. I'm sorry. They're small on my side.
Notice his nickname. He's old.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'm a Bears fan, and it has. So people thought I was hating because of Matt Nagy, and I'm like, I'm not. I don't hate. Like, believe it or not, I don't hate Matt Nagy. I thought he was a nice guy. I thought he was. I liked his demeanor. I liked a lot of the things that he brought to the team, the clubhouse culture, and everything like that. I don't think he was very good as a head coach, but I still like him. Like my son is not great at soccer, but I still love him. So I really like it. And then last year, and then it got into the playoffs, and we're doing, I'm making television, and they're like, hey, do you want to go out and cut a promo, like a pro wrestling style promo? Like, pick up one of the underdogs. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do the Jags, and I'm going to make all these AEW references, which people loved and got behind. And so then we come to doing the game picks, and they're like, who you picking? They're like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take the Chiefs. Like, you can't do that. Like, after you hyped up the Jags, I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. So I did go against them there. even though I kind of knew. It was closer than I
I
thought.
remember that. Yeah.
Believe me, I would have taken plenty of victory laps had the Jags pulled that off. I would be like, see, told you, told all of you. I will say, in fairness to all the Chiefs fans who hate me, I did sincerely pick the Buccaneers. I did sincerely pick the Eagles. I was definitely wrong on both occasions. And I think you can, like, I don't like when people try to defend or like try to reason, like I was mistaken. Like the Bengals are a good team. Like it's
Yeah.
not like that was a good game. It was very close. It came down to the wire. The
Mhm,
Super Bowl came down to the wire. Like it's not disrespectful. You have to pick somebody to win or lose.
mhm.
So it's comical to me. And I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, well, now I'm going the other way and just doubling down on, like, if I'm wrong, which I clearly was, I was wrong. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. They're a lot better. Losing Tyreek Hill did not matter as much as I thought it was going to. Especially, I thought it was going to matter in the big games. Like I thought AFC Championship games, Super Bowl, that's where it would matter. And then you're like, no, it doesn't. Like Kadarius Toney somehow is just as good, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and he's just gonna. They got him slated as the number one wide receiver this year, which is kind of crazy to think about. You know, I mean, Kelsey's always going to be number one until he's gone. But wide receiver wise, they got Tony slated as the number one receiver. I do see the talent in him. You know, he did have some soft tissue injuries. Again, it was the Giants medical staff, so you can't really expect a whole lot.
Yeah.
When he came here, started doing a lot better. You know, he had a little ankle tweak, but that was really about it. There wasn't the soft tissue injuries went away, and he started playing really well. So
It's also not playing in the Meadowlands.
Yes.
You talk about the soft tissue injuries.
Yep.
I think not playing in the Meadowlands is a huge thing. There's just some fields that aren't great, and
Chicago's
that's a huge
one of
issue.
those fields.
Well, they changed it. They changed it last year.
Oh, they finally changed it?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Yeah, they needed to because that was bad.
100%.
There was. I mean, between there and Washington, I don't know which one. Well, I think Washington was probably worse.
That's atrocious. They did not change it. That's one of the good things about the Bears over the last couple of seasons is that they've really made the minor adjustments of like making sure the field's in better shape, updating their practice facility, like bringing in an assistant general manager. You know, when Ryan Poles was hired, he brought in Ian Cunningham from Philadelphia. That was the first time they had an assistant GM. And Ryan Pace had tried to get this gets to happen, and the Hallis family, they said no, and but they were able to change. Ted Phillips is gone. Kevin Warren's now in, so they've made minor improvements, and the field is a big issue, and I'm glad they were able to take care of that.
Well, this
Definitely
is actually something that's come out recently, where I think it was this week, where the discussions of field turf versus regular grass turf have come back on, and that the problem is that not just that grass is better for your knees because that force doesn't go up to your doesn't go all the way up your leg, or when you see guys like Tua when they hit the ground, you're hitting turf, if it's not taken care of well, and just the fact that there's rubber pellets in it, your head's gonna bounce back off of it. So I think that all the NFL should switch to turf field or should switch to grass fields, just because even if you don't care about the people, you're protecting your investment.
Well, you got to think about what's underneath that turf as well.
Yeah,
I mean that's a huge
thing. It's a type of grass too. Like the Bears had a grass field, but it was the wrong kind of grass, and they had to switch it. And I think all these teams, they need to be able, they need to have a uniformed field. I think, we know what grass is the best. They just know what it is. I'm sorry that I don't know which one it is exactly, but they know what it is. Make everybody do it.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, quick question. You're talking about Chicago really quick, and Matt Nagy, because you brought that up. There was a little rumor going around, and I heard this numerous times. They lost a little bit of trust in him as far as the ownership GM situation. He wanted to make a trade with Kansas City for a certain player. We were going to give up, 2 players and a draft pick for one particular wide receiver, and the GM and ownership turned him down because they didn't have that trust in him to do that. Do you see any of that? Did you see any of that towards the second, third, maybe the third season that he was with Chicago? Do you see that trust factor being a problem?
I don't think so, because he was one of the ones who scouted Justin Fields and was in on that. And, they brought him in. It was weird the way that they used him in his rookie season, but he's been I think they trusted him. I think Ryan Pace was the one who was a little out of control with the moves that he was making. But Matt Nagy's always had a really good eye. Like, he was the guy who, back in the draft with Mahomes and Trubisky and all those guys, who liked Patrick Mahomes, who knew that Patrick Mahomes was the better player. And he wasn't with the Bears at that time. He was with Kansas City. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he knew. I think he has a pretty good eye for that stuff. I think he did have some trust. I think they still trusted him, but I think at some point they knew that Ryan Pace wasn't going to survive, so they kind of minimized what he was able to do.
I see.
He was a lame duck GM.
He was,
a ton of power.
That last season, it's all worked out. I'm happy with Ryan Poles. I think that's going to end up being a tremendous hire when we get down the road. I'm hopeful that Matt Eberflus is going to be good. I like him. So far, so good. But I think that ultimately, it's one of those things that I feel good where they're at now. And so it would have been nice to give Justin a head start with the coach he was going to be with. But, I think we're okay where we're at right now, and we'll see what happens this season.
Well, I think you guys are definitely going to make a leap forward.
I would hope so.
Had with him.
I think that the realistic, I know the Chiefs fans are like, stop talking about the Bears, but I'm going to keep talking about them.
I'm going to keep talking about the Bears.
I will say this. Realistically, if they could have a season similar to what Detroit did last year, where very fun, they were fun. People liked them. They won 9 games. They beat the Packers. It was an enjoyable season. I've said this multiple times, is that outside of you guys, the Lions had the best season, because they beat their rivals. They won. They went out on a win. They sent Aaron Rodgers to New York. You're like, there's outside of winning a Super Bowl, there's not much more as a fan that you could ask for. So it worked out well for them.
Yeah. Well, from a fantasy football perspective, I'm drafting Justin Fields. The people I'm in my fantasy football, they don't know that yet. But I'm drafting.
They do now.
Justin.
They do now, yeah.
I will draft Justin Fields. It's going to happen just because I got burned by Lamar Jackson in those first 4 games. I'm in multiple, and he was on that tear, and I lost 2 different games with 2 different leagues because I just got burned by Lamar Jackson. So I now have way more respect in fantasy football for the running capability of quarterbacks, and also it's just electric to watch.
Yeah. And we'll probably not see him rush for 1,000 yards this season, which is okay. But DJ Moore is going to have a tremendous impact on his development, similar to what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen, similar to what A.J. Brown did last year for Jalen Hurts. So we're going to see a vastly improved Bears offense. We're going to see more precision passing from Justin Fields, but I still think he runs for touchdowns. I don't think he runs for 1,000 yards, but definitely going to have him. And every game, I think you go into it thinking that you've got probably a floor of 40 rushing yards, which is nice. So that's good.
Well, that's the thing, talking about that, Caleb and I have talked about this for years on this show. Lamar Jackson, compared to like a Justin Fields or even, Mike Vick or anybody else for that matter that was a running quarterback, a pure running quarterback. Those skinny legs of his, we knew we're gonna end up causing him issues. The DB was going to take him out. Somebody's going to go after his ankle, whatever the case may be. Justin Fields has a lot of strength.
Yeah,
he works on his legs.
He's a big guy. Yeah,
he's a big guy, and I think that is going to play into a huge part of his game. And it's not going to be a detriment to him like it was Lamar. We knew that was coming. It was just a matter of when. Lamar didn't have the accuracy that Justin Fields had at an early age. I'm sorry, but he just didn't.
No.
Justin Fields was a better quarterback.
Yeah, when you look at what he was able to do at Ohio State, he was a pocket passer that can just run. And, he's a dual threat. But I think ultimately we're going to see an opportunity for him to go out there and prove it as a passer this year.
Yeah. Well, it's like Mahomes said, he runs scared. He don't want to get hit. And he's not lying. I mean, he's telling the truth when he says that. He said, if I run like that in the combine, probably ran a 4.2. But it's just it's just a matter of, different players have different skill sets. Mahomes he's a backyard quarterback.
All
He's a
around
guy
can do everything.
He can just do it all, and that's the
That's
difference
true.
between him and a lot of guys. So, I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of how Aaron Rodgers played, and a little bit of Brett Favre back in the day. But more accuracy and a little bit more intelligence, especially with Brett Favre, because Favre threw so many interceptions and just made so many mistakes, especially during his early years. But looking at Justin Fields, I think you guys have the nucleus to be able to be a really good football team. Now,
I think so.
Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. What do you think is going to be with the Jets this year?
I really think he's going to be good. I think when you look, it's going to be like Peyton Manning to the Broncos, not Russell Wilson to the Broncos. I think he's going to go out there. He's going to go out there, throw for a lot of yards, and I would even say this: Garrett Wilson needs to be one of the receivers that you draft in fantasy football. Like, you've got to have Garrett Wilson.
I have on my team right now as a keeper. Okay.
Perfect.
I'm going to keep him. Thank you.
Keep it. And I also like, what's up, Philip? I really love the idea of where you can get him. You can get him with Devontae Adams. And if you have Devontae Adams and you have Garrett Wilson, I think you're going to end up having a pretty good fantasy team.
What do you just quick question. Do you think it's possible Devontae Adams could be traded by week 8? Do you think he's going to stay in there and stick it out? Or do you think he could possibly be gone? Because it's not looking good over there at the Raiders. Every week we talk about him, it looks like just a dumpster fire sometimes. What is your personal opinion? Do you think he's going to be traded, or do you think he's going to end up lasting the entire season?
He'll end up being gone. I think that it's the Patriot way. Like, they get rid of everybody. Like, there's nobody sacred to the Patriots way of thinking. And I think Josh McDaniels has deluded himself enough to think that, this is the Raider, this is the Patriots West. And he's going to try to run his ball club the same way.
Oh my God, that's going to be the clip on this show. That is going to be the clip on this show, because I'm sorry, but I look, Josh McDaniels to me is not a great head coach.
Hey,
I don't think he ever has been. And I don't think
ruined
he's gonna, 2
AFC West teams.
I
love the man. Thank you.
I mean, I got to tell you, I actually said on this show, if he falters again this year, he's gone this year.
Oh yeah, he
saved his job with that bullshit with Derek Carr. Excuse me. I mean, he actually did. I mean, he saved his job, and that's really kind of what his whole premise behind that was. I know they didn't want to pay him. I get that, but
still, it's one of those things too. Like, I don't know if Tom Brady being there makes an impact, because obviously Tom Brady's got a history with Josh McDaniels.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that would give him some extra time, but
maybe
I don't see him getting a big leash at all.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just going to be a rough ride, I think, for him. And I don't see the upside to anything they've done so far. What do you think is going to happen with the Broncos this year? You think Russell Wilson's going to quit?
I had a much better transition to that. Speaking of rough rides, let's move to Broncos country. Let's ride. But now you're just going to ruin all of that for me.
Okay, well, go ahead. You use your little transition.
Do you think, will you make the Broncos have double-digit wins again?
I don't think so. If I'm thinking back to it, if not, maybe. Like, they'll be better. I think in the weeks when Nathaniel Hackett was fired, Russell Wilson played a lot better. I just don't think they're as talented as everybody thinks that they are. And I don't think their receivers are as great as everybody thinks that they are. I know Javonte Williams is still missing time, so they're decent. They're good. But the AFC is just loaded.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Actually, you know what? Actually, I could tell you. Hold on. I got it right here. Where did I have it? What do I have for the Broncos? No, I have them at 9-8.
Oh, okay. And you know what? That's perfect. That's perfect, because it leaves them from pick, 12 right before making the playoffs. So they're in perfect quarterback purgatory. And that's where Kansas City was stuck in a long time, because Kansas City was a lot like the Vikings now, where they just refused to lose, even though you knew their quarterback had a ceiling. And they never tanked. They always had either a really good defense or a really good offense. And outside of a few years, the Chiefs were always, depending on the strength of schedule, they were 9-7, or they were 12-4, and they would always get bumped out. So that's where I think the Broncos are probably going to end up being. But with how loaded the AFC is, I think that they're going to be on the lower side of that.
Well, Tommy's got them at 8-9, so we'll see how that works out. I don't know. I don't see the Russell Wilson hype. it almost to me, and I said this on the show before, I think he had a lot of people fooled for many years.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where it kind of stands with him. It's almost, I look at Tom Brady and I think this, okay, he played in a terrible division for many years. He was guaranteed 6 wins a year no matter what. Except for
Feels that
Miami,
way.
for some reason,
every once in a while they
every
get a
once in a
crazy
while
win.
Miami they got a crazy win on him. But for the most part, he was in a terrible division for 19 years. As soon as that division started to get a little bit better with Josh Allen and Miami stepping up a little bit, then he goes to another terrible division.
Yeah.
And he looks like a god, you know.
Ha,
Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson wasn't able to do that. He went to a really tough division thinking he, with his, his personal chef, his masseuse, his own office, spinning in the middle of the field. I do everything 3 times, like throw 3 interceptions. I fall down 3 times. I do everything wrong 3 times. He proved to
Wolverine
me,
blood.
yeah, he kind of proved to me that he was not what everybody assumed he was, and he fell off because he went to a team that wasn't catering to him. And Pete Carroll knew that. Everybody knows that. Pete Carroll wanted him gone prior, a few years prior. So there's no love lost between those 2 guys. And in fact, I think none at all. And you know that. I mean, when Denver played them, they didn't even speak. So they didn't even look at each other. While Pete was hugging everybody else that he knew, and vice versa, they didn't even go near each other. So I think Russell Wilson, he's got that Jay-Z mentality. He thinks he's a little bit of a diva. He's a lot of a diva. So I think that's hurting him in the long run, and it's proving a lot. It's proving a lot of people right. I mean, guys like that were doubters of Russell Wilson, now they're right. I mean, he was the doubter of all doubters, and he had him dead last year, which he was right. I thought the Raiders were going to be dead last year, and he had them dead last, and they were. So I don't know. Where do you see the AFC West this year?
Now, obviously, I'm not going to make the same mistake of picking the Chiefs to be 10. But I mean, I think 13 wins is a very reasonable. But I see both the Chargers and the Broncos as 9-win teams. I don't think Quentin Johnson's as good as everybody thinks that he is. I know that everybody loves.
God, you're just agreeing with so many things that I have said.
You guys should do a show together.
Yeah. we got the Raiders with 4 wins, so I think I think this should be
on the head there.
Oh, I don't want them to be in the CJ Stroud game, but if any team can mess them up, it's Las Vegas.
Well, there's a you're thinking about Caleb Williams, the winner of the Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm. The Colts. Well, the Cardinals are in the mix. Cardinals, Tampa Bay, these are teams in the mix. I think Washington's going to be too good. They're not good, but they're going to be too good to get him. Mm-hmm. I think if you're Indianapolis, and I got to go after this, but if you're Indianapolis, I think that what the Bears did last season, if you can go out there and have Anthony Richardson light it up and then win 2 games so that you get the number 1 pick and get to trade him and then get a haul. Because what the Bears got for Bryce Young is pretty good. But what a team like the Colts could get for Caleb Williams would be unbelievable. So I think that's exactly what the Colts want. That's the dream season for the Colts.
Okay.
So real quick, Brad's got a question. He says, "What do you think of Rashee Rice?"
I liked him. I thought that of the Tank Dells and even Quentin Johnson, of those guys from those Texas schools, I thought that Rice was kind of overlooked. I know he kind of did everything for SMU, but at the same time, I think that he's got a lot of potential. Of those 2nd, 3rd, 4th round guys, I think that he might be my favorite.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because we have had the biggest issue within Chiefs Kingdom about the. I mean, honest to God, when they picked him, I thought they were going to burn the city down. I mean, they wanted everybody else beside. It could have been anyone. It didn't matter who it was, and we were excited. We were happy that he came on board. Mm-hmm. But
I like his mentality. I like the way he approaches it. And sitting down, there's a prominent wide receiver that I work with who likes Rashee Rice as well. So I feel pretty good about that. So, okay. I won't say who it is, but I think you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Him and I were both in agreement on Rashid Rice. So I'm like, okay, I feel pretty
That's
good.
good then. Yeah,
Good
he's
with
a good
my
player.
assessment.
He's going to be. I
Awesome.
think he's going to step up pretty quick in an Andy Reid offense. That's going to be the
100%.
biggest thing. Yeah, if you can step up in this offense and do it quickly, you're doing something right. So
Which
For
means
sure.
there's no place in the offense for the Ross brothers.
Right?
Okay, so thanks
guy.
for being on, Adam.
yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Awesome,
Thank you.
bro.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you guys. No, I'm glad
Hey,
we were
man.
able to do it. Thanks for changing the time for me.
Oh.
Sorry to all the Chiefs regulars who don't like me for all the
I-
time that we spent talking about the Chicago Bears. I'm sorry. But
Hey,
You're good. Don't worry.
We're an
about it.
NFL show, man. We can talk about whatever.
There
we
it
want.
is.
That's the beauty
We're
of having-
good.
hey, the beauty of YouTube. You can say whatever the hell you want.
right?
Anyway, man, we really appreciate it, dude. Anytime, come back on. We'll
do.
anytime. Appreciate
Okay.
it, bro.
I'll do it
Hey,
for sure.
Enjoy tonight with your daughter. Your is it your daughter or your son?
Daughter, yeah, it's my daughter's
Yeah,
open
daughter,
house.
yeah.
We're gonna go do that
Well,
right
enjoy your night.
Perfect.
All right.
now. All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks,
We'll
man.
see you guys later. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Well, we got to hear Quentin. It's won his
oh
victory.
God, I'm so
Here
we
vindicated.
go.
I
Get
am
it out,
You're not
get it out.
vindicated. You're not vindicated. You're not vindicated till you have a Chiefs guy on and
Ross
says the same thing
takes-
you're saying.
Are 100% on par. There's not really a place in the offense for them. They both
there a
are
mute button
significant
here?
injury history.
Hold on.
I
Is there a
mean-
mute button.
Oh, it's so fantastic.
Well, you can say cue the truther now, not the doubter, the truther. If you want to do that.
Oh God.
I mean, look, okay, let's talk about it though. Okay, so Kadarius Toney's wide receiver 1, right?
Okay.
That's where everybody wants. I think that MVS is your 2.
Okay.
Sky Moore or Richie. I think Richie James is wide receiver 3. But I know a lot of people are going to argue for Sky Moore is 3. At this point, it doesn't really matter to me. So make those 3-4, right?
Okay.
Then we've got Rashid Rice at 5. Justin Watson is on this team.
That's 6.
That's
right
6.
now.
Are we really going? Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so then
here's-
you've got 2 injured players for what, 7 and 8. Are they carrying that many wide receivers?
I think.
I think they do carry
7.
at least 6 to 7.
I think they take 7. I had a feeling Richie James could possibly be a cut in training camp, possibly towards the end of it. But I could be wrong. I think if anything happens, Justin Ross is making the roster. I feel like
He's signed. I mean, he's going to
between
make
him
the
and
roster.
John
He's
Ross,
signed.
I think Justin has the better chance. John
Well,
Ross
Justin's
would have got to be
signed.
on the roster.
That's the difference.
Justin.
Justin's on a contract.
Mm.
So I don't know if he's going to go anywhere given the fact that he is on a contract. So it's going to be tough for Brett Veach to eat a contract again and have another issue like he did with Clyde. I'm
I mean,
sorry,
both of them will be able to fit on the practice squad again.
Okay.
And unless there is, what is it? This over Sky Moore? What is that in reference to? Richie James over Sky Moore?
I think that's what he's
Is
saying.
that what the
Yeah.
comment is? If you could clarify that, then I will.
yeah, clarify what you're saying there, man.
I think
That-
Richie James
the
just
time
has
to
more
lapse.
NFL experience. I don't know
Mhm.
exactly, what. I'm just not sure what exactly we saw with Sky Moore over the year. Let's be honest. Sky Moore did not have a year in which he brought a lot to the wide receiver room.
Mhm.
And I'm just not
He
sure.
only had
what
1
the
year.
skill set. I know, that's what I mean. It's like I just don't want to fall down this Mecole Hardman role again where it's
That's fair.
okay, from year 1. And Mecole Hardman had a great rookie year.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
And Sky Moore had such a limited role in this offense, while really the only, superstar on the team, other than Patrick Mahomes, obviously, was Travis Kelce. So in theory, there should have been snaps for him, and he just never broke through that barrier. You bring
Okay,
in a
but let me
guy like
ask you.
Richie James, I just think that Sky Moore will probably be the 4 on the team.
Well, let me ask you something. Given the fact that McCole Hardman had such a great rookie season with the supporting cast that he had, and nobody really knew what we were going to do, they didn't have our number like they did in 2021, where it was pretty predictable. So, given the fact that Sky Moore had such a, I guess, average year, didn't have so many snaps in the offense itself.
Mhm.
Now that he's learned the playbook, he's gotten more acclimated. He feels more comfortable within the offense. Why wouldn't he be a little bit more of a, uptick this year compared to last year? Because he knows the offense. He knows what he wants to do. The kid's very determined.
I mean,
Yeah. Go ahead,
Go
Quinn.
ahead, Caleb.
No, I'll say, yeah, I just, and this is just my opinion. I feel like Rasheed Rice will have a better rookie year than him. Just due to the weapons and things kind of surrounding Mahomes. I think Sky Moore can do great, but I think he needs some more time in the system. That's without seeing Rasheed Rice play. And the reason why I'm saying that because I think what we see with Rasheed Rice is kind of what we were expecting that we would get from him with Cole Hardman earlier in his career, just all around. And I think the Chiefs got a really good gem of wide receiver. Sky Moore is kind of more your technical wide receiver that's going to run the right routes and do the things you need him to do. But someone like Rasheed Rice, I feel like is an upgrade and can possibly do a little bit more than what people think he can do in his first season or two compared to a Sky Moore. It is, to me personally, feels like the Chiefs have always been safe with the wide receiver position. They're picking the guy who has the best route running and things kind of along those lines.
Well,
That's
I will
what
say
noticed
this.
the whole time period with guys like Corner Powell, now Sky Moore, and that's kind of been the pattern. If they can do a good route running and kind of be in a complicated offense, I mean, in the college, they can translate that to NFL, they're at least going to get a shot. And that's how I see. That's what I feel like personally.
Well, they are two different wide receivers as well.
That's fair.
I mean, Sky Moore's more of a small, speedy guy, where Rasheed Rice is definitely not. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a great route runner, but he's a very large guy that can really manhandle people. And I think that's where you're going to see Sky Moore excel in certain areas because we do have a fairly large wide receiver room. I mean, if you look at everybody we brought in, they're all pretty big guys. We don't have McCole Hardman anymore. We do have Sky Moore, which kind of took the place of him. You got Tony that is taller than Tyreek Hill, bigger than Tyreek Hill in a lot of ways, and plays as well. I mean, I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think he's going to be a big surprise to a lot of people this year, including the doubter up there. I think he's going to be
It's the truther now.
The truther. I think it's going to be a huge.
We got
It's going to be a huge
offseason
uptick for
left.
him. I mean, I really do. I think he's going to freak a lot of people out this year. I just have that feeling.
Okay.
He's got balance, man. I mean, the guy's got so much balance. It's insane. He's
I
very
need to
intelligent
point
too.
out a flaw. Not to specifically call out Tommy, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. Tommy said two things. One, he says, I think one of the Rosses will be a 4. I just think you're crazy if that. I just can't see that. I think there are just too many other roster spots dedicated to other guys that have been here. And then secondly, the part that I want to say that I think is flawed in terms of some of the Chiefs fandom logic, he says, I think Sky will replace Hardman in running the jet sweeps and deep middle of the field. How many guys do we have to do that? Because when Kadarius Toney was brought in, that's what was talked about Kadarius Toney. That was the reasoning behind the Kadarius Toney bring. It was like, wow, look at this guy. Look what he can do in the screen game and the jet sweeps and all that fun stuff. And then when you talk about the Rosses, what do people first bring up when they talk about the Rosses? They say he can go deep down the middle of the field and they could run the jet sweep. That's the justification for having both of those guys on the roster because of the potential in the jet sweep game and deep down the middle passes. So I'm just you can't. The Chiefs' offense is not just jet sweeps and 60-yard bombs. There's a lot in the middle, and I think Richie James actually takes a lot of that over the middle stuff. That's where I think he's valuable. He will get a lot of those Juju Smith-Schuster routes. I think that he's going to get a lot of those middle 5 to 7 yard routes. That's where he's valuable.
No, I kind of do have a question. That's a great point, Quinn. Now, it's been reported, and you guys may have seen this or may not have seen this, that the Chiefs are still interested in getting a priority number 1 receiver. There are some teams out there that aren't good. Do you think they may make a move to get another number 1 wide receiver? Because if that happens, I feel like someone's getting kicked out at training camp. Do we even think a move could possibly happen? Because Brett Veach is always working. Whenever there's smoke, that means there's fire somewhere. So what is your guys' kind of overall opinion about that?
I will say this.
Because 2 players come to mind.
Well, and there's 2 players that are, still in the mix. But if it's something that Veach can do, and it's not going to hurt the team, he will do it. And when I say that monetarily, okay, if they are fit within the system and it doesn't hurt us monetarily, he's going to make that move. I wouldn't put any bank on that because, as we've seen, we can do it without a big name wide receiver. So a lot of it's going to depend on what happens in OTAs and in training camps. And when that comes about, you got guys that are out there that are still going to be available, then you may see a change. But right now, I wouldn't expect anything to happen right this minute.
Well, the reason why, because this is the second offseason now where the Chiefs have been quote-unquote linked to number one wide receivers. Last year was A.J. Brown. The DeAndre Hopkins has been a huge thing people can talk about. And there's also Mike Evans came up, and there's another one I'm not going to say. We'll talk about that off the air. So, I mean, I feel like there's smoke, there's fire. Now, will it happen? Yeah.
Okay, the
Why?
A.J. Brown thing, I'm going to bring this up really quick because that was A.J. Brown's bullshit. That wasn't the Chiefs saying that. That was A.J. Brown saying, well, they reached out to my agent. Veach reaches out to every fucking player in the NFL if they're available. Just because he reached out to his agent doesn't mean – I mean, the conversation
But he
went.
did inquire. He did try, though. He did
Okay,
try.
but here's what he said.
If he would have
This is
said yes, you never know.
Here's the conversation. Honest to God, this is exactly what I was told how it went, and I believe it. Okay, I was inquiring about A.J. Brown. What is he asking for? Oh, he wants $100+ million a year? Okay, we'll talk to you later. And that was the end of the conversation. It wasn't, okay, well, let's try to work this out. Let's negotiate. It wasn't anything like that. It was, he wants that much? Okay, yeah, no, sorry. We're not going that route for a wide receiver. If we were going to do that, we would have stuck with the bullshit and Tyreek Hill. We just went a different,
What theoretically would they want to pay top two receiver if they were trade for one?
Go by the market this year. I mean, the top player this year is $15 million, and it was freaking OBJ. So he was the highest
20
paid.
would be the cap, probably.
I wouldn't even go that high.
18.
I mean, the market right
Kansas
now
City
is
is
around
not
13
eating
to
an
14
entire
million.
wide receiver one contract.
No,
If Kansas City gets a wide receiver one, they're coming in and they're doing an incentive-based deal out of a free agency. So if DeAndre Hopkins gets cut post June 1 and he'll come to Kansas City, it would be, if he comes to Kansas City, it would be an incentive-based deal based on receptions, yards, playoff team success, that sort of thing.
and it would
Or
probably
if they
average.
trade-
Honestly, with everything together, we're probably about 12 to 13 million a year.
And if they trade for a guy, whoever they're getting for, like, let's say hypothetically in a million years, or the NFL script writers have Devontae Adams being traded to Kansas City, that, yeah, I know. But the Raiders, if he does get dealt out before the season, the Raiders are going to have to eat a ton of that contract, because the way it works is that the more money a team takes on, the less valuable pick you get in return. So the Raiders would have to eat some of that in terms of in order to get any significant value for a guy like Devontae Adams. Now, back to defending myself, because the chat continues to just, come at me, which is fine.
Look at the doubter. It's going to happen.
Justin Ross is T. Higgins. The key part of that is when healthy, and the guy hasn't been healthy for a significant amount of time. And so I'm just not exactly sure how much you can, come about that and really, work towards
I'm
that.
changing your name again. I'm changing your name again.
JP, to be fair, he had a pretty serious back injury.
Who did?
And it's been Justin Ross.
Justin Ross.
I'm talking about
hasn't
Tony. He
played
just
an
said
NFL
Tony
snap.
wasn't. He just said Tony wasn't.
What?
I'm talking about Justin Ross.
Okay, but you said Tony wasn't.
Okay. I'm reading Brad's comment. Justin Ross is T. Higgins when healthy. I don't know what you're talking about. Even Higgins said that. Yeah, but he literally, if you go to look at his splits on any website, Justin Ross doesn't have an NFL snap. He has no stats. I don't know what this guy is. We're basing Justin Ross off of 1 year in Clemson.
Freshman
Well,
year.
you're right about that, and I do agree with that. I'm going off of what you said about Tony,
Okay, well, I just misspoke there. I was reading the comment about Justin Ross.
because
So-
I almost threw something behind me, and I like this shit behind me, because Tony went from having nothing but soft tissue injuries to not having them, and then had an ankle tweak.
yeah,
They kept him out on purpose, that he really wasn't injured.
I think you're crazy if you think, in terms of Kadarius Toney, I think you're crazy if you think he plays north of 14 games this year. He's going to miss time.
We got to put a bet on that.
Oh,
He's
over
going
under?
to miss.
Okay.
He's going to have week 8
Tony's
or
going to
9.
play 17 games,
He's
and
going
then
to
he's going
have
to
a
play in the
soft
Super Bowl.
tissue. He's going to have a soft tissue injury, and he's going to pull a hamstring, and he's going to miss a game or two over the year.
You're going to have a soft tissue injury.
It's hard to play all 17 minutes, but if he does that, that is remarkable.
I'm just saying, I just don't. A guy that has an injury history, especially, I know, obviously playing on grass is better than playing on a field. I think Adam was right. Playing
Thank you,
on a
Tommy.
turf field that gets used every week, like it
Mhm.
does in New York, it definitely isn't good for
Hell
you,
no, it's not
especially
good.
a speedy guy like
Yeah.
that. But I just don't think that you can watch a guy go through a ton of injuries and then expect him to come off of that and then play an entire season, especially when
Mhm.
now they've added an extra game.
Hold on.
And that's why I'm concerned.
That's just for Tommy because of what he just said. Read that comment.
Yeah, and Adrian Peterson blew both of his knees out and came
And
in
he played until he was 37 years
Yeah,
old.
so we can talk about the exceptions to the rule.
Brad's got popcorn up.
Well, that's why I'm curious though, Quentin, because since he's injury prone, will they bring in another person? Because what if he's out for a extended period of time? But we'll
That's
see
why
what
I think
happens.
I think that's why they brought in Richie James.
You think
Well, it could
Richie
be,
James
but
is
in the
filling
same
that
aspect,
role?
you have to have insurance.
I'm more concerned if that's what they think.
I think Richie James
Uh-huh.
is sort of their guy that they're confident he can run some of those
Okay.
over the middle routes. Look, he was with the Giants
Mhm.
last year, and when we talked about bringing Kadarius Toney in, what was one of the things they said? They have their offensive coordinator came from Kansas City, and so
Mhm.
they run a very similar system. So why not bring in another guy that's already familiar with that similar system? I think the same benefits for bringing in, should also go to Richie James. Every year since Richie James has been in the NFL, his yards have gone up. When he was with San Francisco in 2018 all the way to 2020, his yards went up. And then, in fact, going from San Francisco to New York, his yards jumped up almost 200. He was at 394 in 2020 with San Francisco, and in 2022, he had 569. So I just think that we're selling
I agree
Richie
with you
James
in,
short.
to some degree, but I will say this: you have to have depth, and you can bring especially with the way our offense is set up. You need the depth.
Yeah, with all the injury-prone guys.
It's not just injury prone. Anybody can get injured at any point, at any time. Anybody can be injured. I mean, we watched T. Higgins get injured. We watched what's his face Jamar Chase get injured. We've seen a lot of guys get injured that are quote unquote elite wide receivers. In fact, I mean, let's go to Pacheco. The guy played with a torn labrum
Yeah,
and a broken
bone
hand.
and a broken hand, and he still played. My point is that if you have depth, quality depth, that you can get on the cheap, why not have it? Because
I'm not
anybody
upset
can get
on
injured
the
at any
roster.
point.
That's not my point. My
Well,
point
you're
is
mad
that
about the roster.
the
You're mad about the roster.
the expectation for the Ross brothers, even the Rosses, I think they should just be very low, because it's not fair to put all these expectations on guys that are fifth or to seventh guys on the wide receiver depth chart. Justin Ross has no NFL stats, and we're basing his potential NFL success off of 1 year at Clemson.
I agree with that.
And then John Ross, who does have, once again, we are talking about a crazy athlete. That's why he stayed in the league. There obviously is potential there, but
Fast,
he
I'll tell you
missed
that.
he missed an entire year. And, even when he's been on the field, he doesn't even have 1,000 yards for his career. And
Every
he was drafted
system
in
is different, though.
2017.
But every system's different. Tony didn't do very well with the Giants. I mean, there's a lot of guys that's the one thing that Veach preaches all the time is fitment system. If you fit within the system, you're going to succeed. And when you're with an Andy Reid system, you got a better chance of succeeding than not. We've seen a couple of wide receivers, maybe one really, if you really want to get into it, which is Cornell Powell, that didn't succeed. So far, everybody else has done fairly well. McCole Hardman did okay. He wasn't a bust. He did okay. He was still second to Tyreek Hill for 3 of his 4 years with our team, and then was injured. Again, I don't know if I can name 5 wide receivers that played in the league that didn't get injured at some point during their careers. So it's you got to have just quality depth, and you got to have that depth because of the 17-week schedule. I mean, you're talking about 20 games. If
Yeah.
you're going to go to the Super Bowl, it's 20 games. So you need the depth.
Yeah, I'm happy they're on the roster, I think that if they were to make it, then I think the value is there. I mean, if either one of them comes out and proves me wrong, which I would be more than happy to admit on the show, if that happens, then great. That's great for Kansas City because obviously the value, you're buying low. You're buying penny stocks at this point. And you're turning around and selling
That's
off
fair.
Apple stock. I mean, that's what would happen if it works out. But I just don't think that, going into training camp, OTAs, we see these guys running around in shorts and, catching balls. Well, John and Justin Ross better look good running around in shorts because their whole thing is that they're fast and speedy. If you don't look good running around in shorts, then we've got way more problems.
Well, let's see what happens when they go full pads and when they're simulating games. That's when we'll know how well they do, because our defense doesn't just hold off on them. I mean, they put the screws to them to see if they can hold up, and that's the one thing Andy wants. That's part of his regime. And when they go full pads and they put the screws to them, we'll see if they can hold up. I mean, training camp injuries happen all the time. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in training camp pretty early, especially with Justin, I think. Yeah, and Brad, you're right. Tyreek did have his injuries. I mean,
yeah, that's why I'm saying Kadarius Toney's going to have his injuries.
Okay, but Tyreek, the difference between him and Tyreek, I can tell you now, Tyreek spent every day in the offseason running hills. He ran every step at Arrowhead Stadium for 7 hours a day. He took 30-second breaks between running the damn steps in the bleachers at Arrowhead and ran every one of them all day, every day. When you stretch your muscles to that point to try to be the fastest guy in the NFL, to try to do this, try to do that, you're going to get hamstring injuries. You're going to get muscle tears. Tony doesn't do that. I think he's strong on his own, and he had a terrible training medical staff in New York, and they played on crap turf. And again, going to your point about the turf, I agree with both of you guys. Adam was right and you were right. They need to, man, do you understand what's underneath that turf on some
It's concrete.
It's fucking
that
concrete.
stuff is terrible.
Yeah,
That's not, I mean, look, man, if these guys wanted to play on concrete, they just go play out in the street. I mean, that's crazy to me that turf, and then you got rubber pellets, you got basically carpet padding and a slab of concrete.
Imagine if it's below freezing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, to me, it's stupidity on the NFL's part to go cheap that way. Now, here's another thing. Turf that's outside, that say it's baked in the sun for a while, and I don't know. I mean, anybody that's lived in a hot state, Jared would know this. I know this. Turf sucks. I don't give a shit what kind of turf it is. If it's 95 degrees outside, the turf's 140. Kids have burned their feet. Dogs can't even walk outside on turf in Vegas. Can't walk outside. It will roast their feet.
Ooh.
So you can just imagine what it feels like as an NFL player. Say if you're in Arizona, or not Arizona, but give me another hot state that has turf. Well, even California has
California.
Turf. California gets hot as hell. It's 105 degrees sometimes, just like it is here. Can you imagine an NFL player sliding down on his arms or on his elbows or on his stomach and his shirt slides up and he gets burned on that fucking turf? That shit's not no joke, man. I don't understand the concept behind it. I never have, and I never will. That's why Clark Hunt, when they brought it to him, well, actually it was Lamar, when they started putting turf in back in the day, said, hell no. I'm not putting my players to that hell. I'm not doing that. Even if I was to put a dome over this, I'm not doing it. Because it's terrible on you.
Yeah,
You've got to have that nice soft dirt underneath you to land on, man. It just is what it is. It's crazy to me, but whatever.
Yeah, one more thing on the wide receiver point. Philip put a good comment in the chat. Yes, Richie James did miss a year. That's why he only played 3 years with San Francisco. He missed his last year before he signed that prove-it deal with the Giants. But we saw him come back from that. So that, there is some evidence of them coming back from that. In terms of John Ross continues to miss a significant amount of times. The most targets he's got in his career came in 2018, where he had 58 targets on the year. He played in 13 games that year. That is the most that he's done.
Who did he come from now again?
He played in Cincinnati, and then for 4 years, then it missed obviously all of 2022 and played 1 year with the Giants in 21.
Well, there you go, the Giants again.
But he had his, third most productive year with actually his second most productive year was with the Giants in 21.
And he got injured, right?
Because he got 224 yards. In the year he had the most targets, which is 2018, he had 210 yards.
Okay, but did he get injured in 2021? I think
he
did.
He started in one game and played 10.
Okay, here's my thing. I am going to preach this till I'm dead. They have a dog shit.
Okay, but you only play in that stadium half the time. You go.
It doesn't matter if your medical staff
half
isn't good enough to get you back into shape.
He also
quick
played in
enough?
Cincinnati for 4 years. So he's been in two different places and continues to have the injury bug plague him. The most games he played in was in 2018, and he played in 13 games there.
Well, you know what? Jerry McKinnon played and missed 3 seasons, and look how he broke out in 2020. I mean,
but it's a case by case though too.
Yeah,
I feel like,
and
it's I would say it's a little bit the player, it's a little bit the medical staff, and it's honestly a little bit of luck and what's being drawn up for you.
I agree. I think the medical staff has a huge part in it. I really do. They get you back quicker.
I could say that. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some evidence we could see that as well. Also, where they utilize the right way is a big thing too. I think that's very important when you look at things as a whole, because when you look at it at the end of the day, McKinnon struggled with the Vikings and struggled with the 49ers, but once he got to the Chiefs, Andy knew how to use them, and his production went up, and he wasn't injured. Yeah. So he kind of had a rise where it looks like
he's the best blocking running back in the NFL.
Well, yeah, he is, and I just believe, and I understand. I just feel like fit is the main contributor. You can't Adam was just 100%. Saying. Quentin Johnson may not be the best thing since sliced bread, and we could very well see that with how he plays with the Chargers. It's all about the fit in the system and what they can do. So,
I agree. I feel like if they get these guys into shape and they put them on the field, if they go with 7 wide receivers and no fullback this year, which I think they're going to, this is going to be a different fucking football team all the way around, man. I mean, it's going to be scary. You have no idea how if you have 6, 7 wide receivers that can constantly be on the field at any point, any given time, you have absolutely no idea who you're going to be able to cover. You don't know their tendencies. It's going to take 3 years to figure those guys out. Honestly, especially guys that haven't played a whole lot. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have tape on a player and they're in an Andy Reid system and you don't know when they're coming out and what freaking formation they're going to be in, what packages Andy's come up with, holy shit. That's just dangerous. That's dangerous. That's a scary thought for any other NFL football team. It just is. And I guarantee you, I don't give a shit about the Eagles right now and how many players they picked up and what they think they did. They're shaking in their boots right now thinking about what wide receivers we're keeping and what Andy Reid's going to pull up next.
Yeah, I'm not worried about this offense at all. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is going to get us 5,000 yards. There's not going to be I don't think there's going to be a true sort of number one wide receiver. I think that Tony is going to lead the offense, the wide receiver room in yards, and Travis Kelce is going to be another 1,000, probably 1,100 yard receiver this year. I just don't think that we should that either of the Rosses are going to be an impactful part of the season this year.
Oh, good segue really quick, Quentin. I was going to bring this up to you because I heard something from 3 or 4 ex-players that are now analysts, and they all said the exact same thing about Travis Kelce. They see him being the same exact producer for the next 3 to 4 years. They all see it. They think that he may decline at age 35, 36. You may start seeing him decline a little bit. But they feel like he is going to be able to produce the same way he's been producing for the next 3 to 4 years. I'm on that bandwagon. And I'm not doing it because I'm a homer. I think he is the best that's ever played that position. Better than Tony Gonzalez. I'm sorry, but he is. And I think he's kept himself in such a great condition And I know this last year was hard on him. He said that. But the year before was hard on him too. And he had a better year this last year. So can you imagine him coming in 100% healthy, playing with Patrick Mahomes with a whole new set of plays, packages, things that they've come up with in the offseason? Holy shit. He's going to be dangerous again this year. You just can't stop the man. I mean, nobody knows how to block him. They triple cover that dude, and he still comes out on top.
Yeah, I still think Travis Kelce's going to be north of 1,000 yards.
Oh yeah.
I just think that Kadarius Toney and MVS will probably both end up around 750, 800 yards. I'm not sure with him. I think Kadarius Toney is going to miss games. I think Richie James is going to be a guy that is going to get another. I wouldn't be surprised if our top 3 wide receivers are all right around the same yardage, because I don't see any of the wide receivers really becoming a quote-unquote number 1 guy, just because I don't know if the targets are necessarily there. If maybe Kadarius Toney breaks the 1,000-yard, but it's not by much. And I just don't think, in terms of the yardage to go around, the amount of snaps to go around, I just don't think the Justin Ross or the Ross crew, John Ross, is going to really be an impactful player. There's just not enough roster spots, and it's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
that's
if you
right.
got him on the practice squad and you need somebody to step up, you got him there. I mean,
I'm not against them being on the roster, and I'm not saying that they're not going to do literally anything at all. I'm sure at certain points one of them is going to get on the field, and they're going to end up with 200 yards. I mean, we're going to see him on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've had this conversation before about other guys that have ended up on the roster. Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
To come to the roster.
That was more of a want than it was like a
You weren't the only
reality.
one talking about it. There were plenty of Chiefs fans that were like, "Look at Josh Gordon. Look, he's missed a bunch of time. Now his wasn't injuries. His was off the field stuff with smoking weed and the NFL being crazy about the weed policy. But he was a guy that had missed significant time in the NFL, and even though you saw him run well in shorts and he was making great catches with those gloves on in training camp and practicing with Mahomes, and then when it came to be on the field, he never produced.
But he came back at 31 years old too. There's a big difference between him and a 21-year-old. So I guess that to me that is. But with us, I feel like Caleb and I both were just praying that he did well. We both thought.
Well, I thought there was an
chance.
opportunity, but what it came down to, obviously, he wasn't. At the end of the day, it just kind of showed him being out in the NFL for a while. And yeah, you can be all cut and stuff. He just, where we expected him to succeed, it really just did not happen. And ultimately, that's kind of why the Chiefs just kind of let it go. I mean,
When he's
you have
retired
better
now,
talent,
I mean,
and it is what it is. You got to do what's
he-
best for the team. And
Yeah, and he's
Don't do
retired
so
now.
much.
He's happy with what he got.
well,
I mean,
he was playing in the XFL, so
Yeah, he's
he
in
may
the
get another
XFL.
shot.
Yeah,
The
he's
team
in the
will probably
XFL.
take a chance on him.
Yeah.
But it's just one of them things where younger and better is just what they're going to go for.
hey, by the way, who
Cheaper.
was it that just got picked up from the XFL and went? Was it the Raiders that picked somebody up or somebody?
I'm not
somebody-
for sure. Several players have been picked over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there was somebody a fairly good. Was it a running back or a wide receiver? I can't remember. One of them from actually the Vegas team got picked up, and I was actually rooting for him because he's really good. He's like 26 years old, never really got a shot in the NFL, went to the XFL, played his ass off, and now he's picked up. And I think that's
That's happened to a couple of players. I mean, that's happened to Taylor Heineke.
Yep.
yeah, Heineke, yeah,
For the Commanders.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't. If I keep reading these chats, I'm gonna get in trouble. Rasheed Rice is not gonna be the number
We
2.
might need to shut it down.
And if I give my take on Shamari Connor and L'Jarius Sneed, people are just gonna come find me. So I'm not.
we could say that for next Tuesday. We could do Hot Take Tuesday, Quentin.
Yeah, I'm already in a mood, so I'm a
Okay,
little
well,
sore
thanks
after it, but I'm in a
thanks
mood.
for Adam for being on here. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
man, that was a blast. I mean, it was nice of him to come on, and hey, man, at least he, I like the fact that he wasn't the Ryan Clarks of the world. Okay, he knows he made a mistake. He owned up to it. He's a very nice guy. He really is. You could tell he's a nice guy. He knows what he's talking about, and he owned up to his mistake. Now, if we had Ryan Clark on the show, holy shit. Look how that would have worked out. I mean, he would have been throwing shit at his own damn computer because we raved him so much. And I would have reamed him a hell of a lot more. I thought I was going to ream Adam, but he turned out to be such a damn nice guy. I couldn't do it.
Man.
It was nice to have him on. I think it was cool that he, jumped on, and we're gonna have we actually, by the way, everybody, next Tuesday, is that the 31st?
Yes.
I believe so.
Next Tuesday, we got a former NFL player coming on.
The 31st is Wednesday.
Okay, then it's the Tuesday, the 30th.
Yeah, the 30th.
He's coming on
is
the 30th.
Tuesday.
Very cool guy. Wait a minute, is it Tuesday or Thursday that he was coming on? I can't
It's
remember. I gotta
Tuesday.
call him. Maybe it was Tuesday. Anyway, he's coming
We'll put out
on.
an
Very cool
announcement.
guy, 7-year NFL veteran. We're going to talk to him about his thoughts about the team now. Talk about old times.
Yeah,
Just have a
blast
good
to the
old time
past.
in general. So it'll be fun.
Maybe he
That
can
being
validate my Ross take.
Oh God,
Okay.
he's not going to
That's
do it. I'm
ended.
just telling you, Quentin.
Cut.
This guy is through and through Chiefs. He's not going to validate it. Willie Rofe he'll come to you. I want Willie to come on. Willie just come to your house. He'll fly from Florida, come to your house, smack you around, go back home. That's just how Willie
That's
is.
fine.
You can't mess with Willie. He don't play. I'm just messing with you. I think Joe is one of the coolest guys, and I think Adam. Thank you, Adam, again for coming on, and we're gonna have a lot of fun next week. So, with that being said, we will talk to you guys then. Peace out, everybody.